Hi, I'm Griffin. So, my product is a partial suit of leather armor. I opted to not do greaves and or pants for it because it's really stupidly complicated and it just looks like um, it looks bad. It looks like assless chaps, to be honest. It's terrible. I didn't do greaves either because I was not trying to do boots. I also didn't do gauntlets, but what I did do is I made a chest plate. I made a helmet mask. I made forearm guards and shin guards, um, going up to like here. Um, I was also making pauldrons, but when I was testing out and detaching them, I realized that they completely immobilized my arms in a way that I wouldn't be able to realistically do anything. So I trashed those. I didn't like throw them away. I'll use them for something else, but I did not use them for this armor. So my essential question was, how can I learn the art of leather crafting and use it to make my own armor? It's pretty self-explanatory how my product helped me exploit and answer my essential question, because it's like the whole thing behind it. And so the the goal was to create armor, which I did, but it was not just to create a showpiece set of armor. I wanted it to be as functional as normal leather armor, like historically accurate leather armor would be, along with keeping myself very mobile and comfortable within. And I did that very well. I can move my arms, legs, hands freely. It took a few attempts, but I got it right. But that all works now, and it's great. Um, so I chose this as my product because from the get-go I wanted to build something with my hands. I didn't know what I wanted to do for my senior project. I just knew that I wanted to make something because I would have become incredibly bored and not had a good time making this or doing this as a project, but instead I chose to do something that would keep my hands and mind busy. And it was great because I heard tons of people complaining about how they stopped enjoying doing their project, and I was loving it the entire time because I was always fiddling around with this and that, and it was great. I chose armor because I am a avid fan of Dungeons and Dragons, and leather armor is like one of the most basic things you can get in that game, and everyone starts with it unless they get a better option. Um, Additionally, hi. I'm doing a product statement thing. Additionally, when I was younger, I had made a suit of armor, like an entire suit out of duct tape, and it was probably like I was like very small. It was nuts. But I made a suit out of duct tape, and this is like little me would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing it again?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Except this is like a step up in both difficulty and skill, which is awesome because it's absolute blast. And so it was kind of like the natural step up from duct tape, just go straight to full leather. But yeah, I also did it because I just think it's such a cool idea to do. Like, there's no message or anything like that behind it. It's just, I thought it was cool. I wanted to do it. I did it. Um, yeah. So there were a lot of materials used in this. The main one being leather, and the second main one being rivets. I ran out of rivets 3 times. I bought 50. I thought, oh, I'll have plenty to do the whole project. Ran out. 50 more, ran out. 50 more, ran out. I ended up buying a total of 200 rivets to do my project. It was nuts. It was time consuming. But yeah, I overbought leather because I wasn't sure how much it would take, and I overestimated how much. I have 2 dead cows under my bed. Yeah. So the type of leather I used though is vegetable tanned because that is the best for like learning how to make armor. You could do chrome tan, which is like a chemical tan, It's weaker, less durable. You can get colors, but it's also thinner. That's what people typically use to do showpieces with, and I wanted functioning armor, so I opted not to it. I like look. I didn't even really consider doing vegan leather as an option at all, because if you've ever seen anything touch vegan leather, like anything wet at all, it just crumbles and it's completely useless. It's disgusting. Plus, you wouldn't be able to do any it wouldn't protect you at all. Stuff would cut straight through it. There was another type of leather that I could have used called, it's just boiled leather, and that stuff is really protective. You could essentially, instead of doing what I did, you would have made plate armor out of it, essentially. But I wasn't planning on messing around with that because it's a much higher difficulty skill curve to learn, and as someone just starting out, I just wanted to do something easier. So when I was cutting my leather, I was using scalpels, because leather shears just weren't doing it for me. It's like cutting cardboard with scissors, in my opinion. It sucked. I used dry hole punches, which is just it's a hole punch without the thing you clamp. You just hammer it straight into the leather. Same thing with diamond hole punches. You hammer them right into the leather. It's so I can do back stitching, well, just stitching in general on leather. But I was doing back stitching. I used blunt harness needles and wax thread. Wax thread was so it wouldn't deteriorate either the thread or the leather from friction. The wax just kept it not lubricated, but I guess, yeah, kind of, I don't know. Additionally, a huge thing was polyhammer, which is just a hammer with a big plastic head on it, solid. That's what I was using to hit stuff in. But yeah. So when I was first creating, not first creating it, but first creating the process I was going to go through, I would just sit there, sketch and doodle, and think about what cool designs for armor would be and how they would work. My first month was sketching and drawing, and I got help from a friend to take measurements of me because I didn't know how to do that. And so once I got the measurements, I took my drawings and I put them up to scale, adjusting everything so that it would fit me properly. And then I would adjust again because I realized, hey, this is going to restrict my movement so much, and that was not something I wanted. So there was a lot of adjustment and revision of my templates before I declared them to be finished. And so once I had that, what I would do is I would trace them out onto the leather and then cut that stuff out. But yeah. So when going more into detail, so when I was creating the drafts of my armor, I was taking inspiration. Actually, I didn't realize it until later, but I took a huge inspiration from Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragons. If you've ever seen the movies, they're great. I think it's in the second or the third where he's got this really nice set of armor, and I modeled mine somewhat after his because I used the exact same pieces he did. He didn't do legs, he didn't do boots, he didn't do gloves, he didn't do full arm. He did the bracers, the shin guards, the chest piece, a mask. He did do pauldrons, and like I said before, that didn't work out for me. I'm probably going to give that another attempt because I think it would look pretty cool to have him on it. But he was that character design was one of my biggest inspirations, and I didn't realize it. But it's great. Yeah. So, I guess my biggest mistake was definitely with the pauldrons. Just didn't work out. I I had to redo my forearm bracers because I forgot multiple things, including that because I was using buckles to hold it together, so I forgot there had to be space for the buckles to go, and so I had accidentally made bracers for someone who had like Popeye-sized forearms, and I had also forgot to like cut out an area here so that I could actually bend and move my elbow or my arm in all of the ways. So I fixed that. That was like my biggest improvement that I did. The second biggest was probably with my mask because it looked terrible and nobody told me. So I edited it. It still looks pretty terrible. I think I'm going to retry making a mask over the summer because I want to get it like really, really right, and I feel like it's going to take a lot more time and stuff that I don't currently have access to. Yeah. So going into more of a reflection period. So I learned way more about this than I thought there was, and I learned that there's way more to learn than I thought. I did not I did not think that I was going to be learning all sorts of uh, like all sorts of absurd things about leather. I learned that you don't want it to be like shoot, what was the word? Alright, I'm gonna skip over that because I forgot the word. I did learn that you can, similar to how like if you're trying to mold wood into a shape, you do the same thing with leather. You get it, you like soak it through, you mold it into that shape, and you like get something to hold it that way. And that's how you can keep it, to get it to keep its shape. It's amazing. I learned about all sorts of techniques, something called antiquing, which is similar to dyeing, except it's more of a surface stain, and it doesn't like seep in. It's supposed to be more natural colors for the leather. It's great. I enjoyed it. I did that, and I used it to actually create a stain, like a stained look on my mask, so it doesn't look like it's a showpiece. I wanted it to be like good looking. I learned a lot about realizing my limitations because so same thing with the pauldrons. Like there are just things I can't do, or I can't do yet because I'm just learning how to do this. That's why I didn't opt to do oiled leather. I wanted to do just thicker vegetable tanned leather because I'm just learning. It's really important to learn your own limits because you don't want to overextend yourself, because I had started doing that with the pauldrons and just couldn't finish them. I am like super proud of myself though for learning an entire skill set in like 6 months and being able to effectively create armor with it. I think that's just awesome, and I'm really proud of myself for it. I had a lot of trouble like finding and managing space to work because I don't have like an open space. I was using my basement, and that got messy. I had like a pizza-sized pile of leather dust. It was nuts. It's gross. It was also like, it was hard to find the time to do it because once I started, I wouldn't stop for a while. There was one time where I was just, I had done leather work for like 3-ish hours already. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take a break. I'll do some more tomorrow. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, okay, I'm bored. I'm going back to this. So I did another 2 hours. Once I like have time and the motivation, I just keep going until I have to stop. Like I would have to stop because people are going to bed and I'm making loud sounds, which was annoying for me. I am super proud of my product because I crafted something that would be that is protective against like basic attacks. In I learned how to do it in 6 months, and I'm super proud of myself. It looks good. I'm proud of how it looks. I'm proud of how well I did on it. I'm proud of like my entire design process, how I went through this, and I'm just extremely happy with my product. If there's anything I could do again different next time, I would not overbuy leather because I spent almost $1,000 on it and used like half, which I regret. And I would also make sure to maybe get more advice, not even just from my mentor, but just people in general, to see if I'm missing things. Like that way I wouldn't have missed wrong measurements, or hey, this looks weird, or stuff like that. I think I would also like to learn how to do editing software so I could do a voiceover of all the time lapses I did, because I did a lot of time lapses and I feel like it would be really cool to have a voiceover for them. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Yeah, thanks.